Let's talk about JSONQuery. Okay, so it's a custom function written by Steve Senft-Herrera. This is his GitHub, and it's on the resource page, so you don't need to write it down. What is JSONQuery? Believe it or not, it's a custom function that operates on JSON. And it's authored by Steve Senft-Herrera. And here's a couple images from his bio page at Beeswax. And with JSONQuery, you point it at either an array of objects or an array of arrays. Those are sweet spots for it. It has a few other things that it'll take as input, but this is, generally speaking, you're going to want to feed it an array of objects or an array of arrays as input. Now, they can be very deep, right? They can be very deep. It doesn't have to, they don't have to be one-dimensional shallow, but just saying that. And it returns child elements that match your query parameters. So as an example, if you work with arrays, right, I often think of these as like spreadsheets, right? It's like a table and the intersection of a row and a column is a cell. FileMaker gives us JSON get element, and we can very easily extract a row. But did you ever notice you can't extract a column? Right? I mean, sure, you can write a while loop to go hit that position over and over again to iterate through, but we don't have a function to grab a column, right? But that's child's play for JSONQuery, and we'll see that in just a moment. So it does three things. I mean, it's a Swiss Army knife with about 1,000 blades, and you will never get to the bottom of it. But it queries, it aggregates, and it transforms. Those are the big three. Right? So I just pulled this out of my initial interview that I did with Steve. I can't believe it's been almost 4 years. And his point is not doing anything most of the time. And actually, I think he was being a little bit understated when he said this. Most of the time, it doesn't do anything you couldn't do with a standard while. I mean, when he figures out the difference between a null and a quote and an empty object and an empty array, that's something that might be a little more work for you with a while. But so there's certain things that he does very nicely for us automatically. But point being, generally speaking, you could do it with a while instead. However, once you get comfortable with it, it will save you time in terms of how quickly you can get your answer, both in terms how you don't have to take time to write the while loop, and under many cases, it's faster than a while. So, okay. So I think what we'll do first is we'll take a little tour of the JSONQuery demo file, and this is what's available from the GitHub and the links on the resource page. And so what we're going to see, it's got three main tabs, but you won't spend much time on the about. The reference sheet is just sort of a cheat sheet to just give you the big picture of what it does. And this is a nice reference when you're already writing and then you think, oh yeah, there's da-da-da-da-da, what's the argument on that thing or something, you can come over here and get it. So so I come here from time to time, but where the real joy of this thing is on the examples. So what we have here is this amazing filtered portal. And you can either show all, or you can pick a subsection or a subsection. So if I could come down here to wildcards, or I could drill in and say, no, I just want combining wildcard paths. All right. I mean, to me, this is absolutely a work of art. And this isn't just visual. You can then click on the thing and it will take you there. So there's just a world of information available to you in here. He's got a special section on working with the data API, cutting edge features. For years and years, we had only V1. V2 came out about a year ago, maybe not 11 months ago. So if I'm just going to start with something really simple. So match operations. In fact, I'll just choose the first one. And so what we have here, just to take a tour of this screen, is we have 4 panels. And we've got the query here. We've got the input here. We've got notes here, and we've got a result here. And one thing that's a little frustrating is, there's a larger screen version, and I thought my screen was big enough that it would put me there automatically, but So if you're on a smaller screen, just the standard examples, but if you're on a larger screen, I'd recommend going with this instead. It just sort of works more the way my brain was, which was input, query, and notes, output, result, okay? And so another thing I'll say about this is if you do, well, first let's just watch what it does, right? So JSON query always has 6 arguments, always, always, always. And after a while, you don't need this anymore because you get comfortable with them and you think, oh, well, like value type, I usually can ignore, right? So he put JSON number there for this example, but a lot of times you get the same thing if you just left that empty. And so what it said, the input, you won't ever have to think about. That's always just the first one is your input. Then you're going to ask some question. So in this case, he's got 250 records and he's saying, hey, reach in here, find me where the ID. Great. Okay. Thank you. I'm back. We still connected? That was a power glitch. Can someone say something so I know we're still connected?
Yeah,
You're still connected. We're
Okay.
still here.
The UPS went off. Yeah, oh, the joys of living behind the redwood curtain, flaky power. I own about 20 UPSs. Anyway, okay. So he's saying reach in here, right? Go find the record where the ID is 247, right? And he's telling us it's a number, but he's just being overly pedantic. If I left that empty, it would still work. And then result path. If you say, quote, quote, it's bring me back everything. Run the example, right? So it just reached down inside here, right? It took 0.021 seconds and it reached into this thing, right? So let's do the same thing with 1,000 records. And just for fun, we'll pull back a different value, okay? Okay, pull back a different value, run the example. Okay, this time, you know, it took 2/100ths of a second longer. And it reached in, right? So I want to be really clear, right? We could say JSON get element on any one of these entries and say, you know, get me something, right? But we'd have to know in advance which element we wanted to hit, right? Because this is an array of objects, right? There's the first record, just in case that's not obvious, right? Okay, there's the first record, there's the second, right? So I just told it, reach in, find the one record where it's 248, right? And then now I'm going to go out on a limb, and I made the contention that you don't have to specify the type. I mean, there are times you do have to specify the type. That's why it's there. But there are other times you don't. Usually it's pretty good about figuring it out for you on basic stuff. So I'm going to notice this, clear the function result. Okay, now we're going to run the example again. Oh, I was completely wrong about that. Okay, that's good to know. Oh, by the way, so here I am putting it back the way it was. But, you know, I'm kind of trashing his example at this point. So let's say, you know, I left it like this, or maybe I even left it not even valid, right? That's the function of this. Reset this example. So now it'll put it back to exactly what it was out of the box. And along the same lines, there is a script that says reset all examples, okay? So what this means is you can trash this thing. You do any kind of experiment you want, and you don't have to download a fresh copy. Just choose reset all examples, and you can put it back the way you want. Okay, so this is actually good for me to know, right? I was reaching in here, I was asking for a number, and it says if you wanted a number, you had to tell me it was a number, right? If I had instead reached for something else, right? Like here we go. The address, bring me back entries where the state is New York, right? And then I'm gonna at least contend that with a string you don't have to specify it. Let's see. Wait. Yeah. So clear it. It must be that I mostly query on strings then, if that's the case. Okay. Yeah, reset there. So here we've got, obviously I'm not going to run through all these examples because I've got a bunch of examples of my own. But this thing is effectively an encyclopedia. And the other thing, just in case that wasn't obvious on what I just showed a moment ago, is that a lot of times you can choose the size of your input. See that? So you can test it out with a different load, depending on the example. And sometimes there's more or less records. But I think I'm just going to jump over to my file at this point. I'll leave his open in case we want to consult it. So I have a JSON query sandbox, and I have I don't think we're going to get through all these examples, but nonetheless, let's just take a look at some. So I had said earlier that you couldn't target a column using or not easily. There's no FileMaker function to do it, but JSONQuery makes it really easy, right? So what I'm saying here is look at my input, and since we're going to match all, we don't have to give it a target path because we're looking at everything. We don't have to give it a comparison value. We're not saying greater than this, less than this, whatever. We're just saying match everything and return me column 4. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and the way I've specified it, by default, it returns results in an array, if that makes sense. So it said, I went through here and I brought you back everything in an array that matches that, right? But maybe we'd rather have it as a list. So we can also, and this is not FileMaker's list function. This is an internal function within JSONQuery. Okay, it's not like I can put anything out here and it'll automatically work, right? But so there we go. So I've pulled that column. And then, as I say, not all my examples are going to show this here because after a while you just internalize it, but also they would get in the way on some of the examples. So I'm going to show them for a while. So here I've got 250, I don't remember exactly how many, but a whole bunch of countries, right? Comes from restcountries.com, and I've got data about each country. And I'm going to tell it match all again, but this time I don't want to return everything. In fact, I think it won't even let me. It says, hey, if I returned everything, I would just be returning the input as the output, or the output the same as the input. So I'm going to tell it, since I'm using match all, I have to tell it what to return. I'm going to tell it just return the name. Okay. So it returned it again in an array, what I asked for. And I might instead say, well, give it to me as a list. So here, I want to return all the names, but instead of matching it, I want to return some names, but instead of matching all, I want to just go where the region is Oceania. So I still want to return the names, but just a subset. So say region equals Oceania, right? Yeah. And this is what I was talking about, the value type. I quite often find I can leave empty. So I usually try it with this empty, and then if I have to, I'll put it if it doesn't work. So yeah, so it brought me those back. And then but maybe rather than just bringing back the names, maybe I'd like to sum the populations for Oceania. So that's another internal function within JSONQuery. So I click this, and it has now given me 40 million sum. And then I'm like, I don't like that because it doesn't have commas. I like commas on my numbers, right? So I don't know if you guys know this trick with num to JText, right? This is one of those cases where we take a function that FileMaker gave us, it's built in, and then do something completely out in left field with it. Turns out if you feed it 1 and 0 arguments, it will auto place commas for you. And then remember, this is a text field here, so this isn't a question of just setting the number formatting to display commas, right? This is actually embedding the commas in my text data. So yeah, so there we go. And then stop me at any point if there's questions. In this case, we're going to stack our calls to JSONQuery. And the reason I'm using the word slice is Steve came up with the pizza cutter metaphor. If you have a pizza cutter, it's a really useful tool, but you'll often use it more than once to get the job done. So my first slice is to bring back everything where the region is Oceania. Then I'm going to query that and find entries where the population is over 1 million and return the name for those entries. So these are the 3 countries that have more than 1 million people. And then don't be alarmed by this. Remember I said it always has 6 arguments? The 6th argument can be a map. And the reason for maps is to transform. Right? So in this case, I want something a little special. I want to go in and I want to get those 3, what we saw here. And instead of name, I'm going to provide a map for that argument. And the reason I'm doing it is I want to produce this. I want to produce the names of the countries and their populations. So Uh, Steve and I devoted a whole interview just to talking about, or primarily to talking about the map. And that's on the resource page. You'll see where down near the bottom it says a deep dive into the map construct. So there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot you can do with it. We'll see some other examples a bit later, but I'm going to keep moving here. Um, and so here I'm back to the country data, but it's also including something that I had previously pulled out, which was the languages. And so what I'm saying here is, hey, these languages are going to show up over and over. I mean, in some cases, over and over again. Like there's probably plenty of countries that list English as one of their languages, right? And so there we go, right? So here we are in American Samoa, and English is one of their languages, right? And I want to get a list of all the languages that are in here, but I also want it to deduplicate so I don't see the same ones over and over again. So I'm going to use list distinct. So that's another, it's like a lot of times he'll use SQL terminology. So distinct is sort of the equivalent of our unique values in FileMaker. And thinks about it for a second, and then it pulls them up. Now, what's it doing? It's bringing them, notice it didn't sort the results, right? Two things I want to say about this. I left the third argument empty. That's the same as match all. So match all, if you leave it empty, then you get match all. You don't have to specify match all. You can specify it or not specify it as you wish. Okay, but when you leave it empty, so you can see basically what I did was here's my input, and then hey, I'm going to bring back. I want to look at everything. But then on the result path, I said reach down here and give me, and right, it's languages, and then you're reaching into an array, and we want anything that you don't know how many entries are in that array for each object, right? So we got an asterisk there. Right. I could just look at the first one by putting a 0 instead of asterisk, but I don't want to do that. I want to look at all of them. Right. Okay. So now it's deduplicated that. And then if we want to sort it, we're going to do that outside. You'll find a lot of times with JSONQuery, you'll use that as a subcomponent in some larger construct, some larger syntax. So in this case, I'm telling it, yeah, okay, you brought me back the names in the order you found them, but I want them alphabetized. So it doesn't do sorting. So you'll do your sorting outside. And then since as the whole world knows by now, sort values helpfully appends an empty return at the end of your list if it finds anything. Any values function, except for JSON list values, all the other values functions, and I mean plural, has an S on the end, gives you helpfully includes a hard return. So I use this just the custom function I wrote years ago called clean list. Clean list, among other things, strips off that helpful trailing return. So what's going on here? Distinctify and sort an array. He has list distinct. He doesn't have array distinct, but I wanted a distinct array. So basically, I'm starting with the list he gives me. I'm sorting it. I'm using JSON make array that we looked at earlier, and then I'm formatting it. So there's what it's doing. That interestingly, it's alphabetizing that parenthesis before a. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Oh, this one's kind of fun. Okay, I've got some pretty simple little JSON here. It's 2 entries, and each entry has objects with a couple sub entries within them. Notice in this case, we're going to look inside an object, right? But it's a kind of an array-like object, right? Because these things repeat in kind of like they would in an array, but they have, they've got a key and they've got values. So the upshot is I've got 5, 6, 4, and 6, so that's 21. And notice I called out the text string number and left the real numbers as they are. So one of our numbers is quoted, right? And now probably if I were to say, hey, give me the total amount here, I'd probably want that also. So some treats quoted and unquoted numbers the same. So I got 21. But if I were to say, yeah, actually, I want to ignore quoted numbers and only report on real numbers. So I want, instead of 21, I want 16. I just want to sum the actual numbers. That's the next example. Sum with a pound sign, right? So if we put sum pound, then it's just going to bring back the actual, right? And notice when we're aggregating, then we're not bringing back an array. We're just bringing back the value that matches our aggregation. This is kind of fun. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of I mean, we could count them with JSON, right? With JSON, we could count them with JSON count values if we wanted to. right? But the point is a whole bunch of hotel data here. It's just names and phone numbers. And there's a few bad apples in here where the phone number is missing, right? So I'd like to find those, right? So I'm going to say, find me where the phone is empty, but then bring me back everything that in that record, especially since it's small, right? So it comes down here, and its definition of emptiness is just what you'd want. It's a null, or it's an empty object, or it's a quote, quote, or it's an empty array, right? So it found me those four. Now I might say, for whatever reason, I'm only interested in ones where the emptiness is JSON object. So I can specify if I want. There's that value type argument number 5, in which case it'll just bring me back that. Obviously I stacked the deck and cooked my data so it would have one of each. So I actually use JSONQuery a lot for what I call finding needles in a haystack. Let's see what we get next. Oh, okay. Now, so it's all well and good to say, great, you showed them to me, but I need to go fix those, right? Or at least maybe I want to delete them. I want to do so. I want to, maybe I want to get them out of there. Maybe I want to go find them so I can easily update them, right? So that's what this is about. Notice what we're doing is we're still going to say is empty, right? So we'll get all 4, but give me the path to them. And that looks like this, right? So now I know where they are, 0, 1, 2, there's our null, right? Okay, so we're back to our countries again, right? And this was a fun challenge, right? And this one I made up. Obviously, I didn't really need to do this. But I said, can I find countries where the name begins with a vowel, right? So, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to break this down to just a list of names. I didn't have to, or rather an array of, a list of names. Okay, I've got my list. And if I were doing this just using standard FileMaker with a while, it would look like this. I mean, there's obviously many different ways it could look, but something like this, right? Take as my input my list of names and then iterate through them and keep them if the leftmost character is one of these 5, right? So build me up a fresh array of responses, right? And we can do that, right? There's no reason not to do it. But the oh, and by the way, I don't know how many of you guys have played with this new plus operator that we got in FileMaker 21. I still think of it as new. It's been around since June, I think, June of last year. But basically, as I'm building up the array, I can just say that and say, put the next item, hit the next open address in the array, rather than having, before we had to tell it what the address was each time. So we had to make a special counter just to keep track of that. But now we don't have to do that. So it streamlines the code. However, if I want to do that with JSONQuery, right? Remember, I want to find countries that just have a where the name begins with a vowel. Begins with any, A-E-I-O-U. Right? It also contains any and ends with any. It also has just begins with and contains and ends with. So if you're just looking for one thing, you can just say that. But the nice thing about this is, before, to have found A-E-I-O-U, I would have had to ask begins with 5 times, one for each letter, and then combine them. So I really like that because it shows how much easier it can be to do something in JSONQuery sometimes. Oh, festivals. Okay. So here we have a big, ugly array of 3 objects. Okay. Deeply nested. All right. Festivals have names. The festivals have a stage. Each stage has sets. Each set has a band. The bands have musicians and names. Right. And those musicians play instruments. So first thing is just, what was the source for this? The musical imagination of Steve Senft-Herrera. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to say, bring me back just the names. There they are. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a huge fan of the triangle. It's my favorite instrument. So I want to know band names that have that instrument. And it brought me back 2. And then maybe I'm thinking, well, maybe I don't, by the way, if I were interested in something more common, switch content. Yeah. Maybe I don't want just the name though. I want the more information about the band. So I'm asking the same question here, and all that's changed is my result path. Now I'm going to get the band, right? So I'm going to go one level up in what we're returning. So and sure enough, there's my triangle from the one, and there's my triangle from the other. Sometimes we could do a little data mining. So this is just a bunch of gibberish URLs and then some number that maybe represents visits to this website this week or something like that, right? And so here I'm just going to set this up, and you can see I'm asking the same question over and over again, right? And but I'm bringing back a different result. Or maybe I don't want all of them. I just want them if the URL contains a U. So now we go back and forth, right? It's very similar. But now I'm saying, look at position 0 and look in there and see if it contains a U. Then bring me back the answers, okay? And I also decided to give me an array of the matches so I could easily fact check it. And if we look, every one of these contains a U, not case sensitive. Then, of course, that begs the question, what if I want to do it case sensitive? We can do that. So now it's exactly the same syntax, except it says contains case sensitive. And just for fun, I'll return a list instead of an array of the matches. So you really get a sense of some of the power of JSONQuery here versus doing that. I mean, it's not that you couldn't do it on your own. It's already built in to do it for you. Finding entries. Oh, this was kind of interesting. What if I said, bring me back URLs that correspond to the minimum value, but I don't know what the minimum value is, right? So whatever the minimum value is, find the entries that correspond to it, right? So this is going to be a 2-pass, where first I say, well, we're going to be looking at column 1, and let's find the minimum. Okay, now I know it's 12. So again, pizza slice, first slice is just going to go get that 12 figured out. Now I can say, reach in and find me every entry where index position 1 equals that 12 that we already calculated, and return me this entry. And there they are, there's 2 that match, right? Oh, this one's kind of fun. Have you ever wanted to flatten out an array so you could just deal with it more easily? So I've got a 4-dimensional array here, and I want to return a 3-dimensional array. Okay, so what it's at first, like when you first look at that, you might think, oh, it's exactly the same, but it isn't, right? Because that array is different than that array, and those have been removed, right? So now they're all in one array. But then maybe like, okay, well, could we flatten it again? So notice I had 1 asterisk, right? This is specifically for operating on arrays. Now I'm saying double up the asterisks. Right? So now it's double flattened it. So we went from a 4D array to a 2D array, also known as an array of arrays. Okay. What if we do 3? Yep, it can do that. And then if I were looking at this, I'd probably rather see it not by default. JSONQuery will format the results. You can override that, but it's across the board and it involves adjusting the custom function. So I think what I'd rather do is I'll just flatten it myself. I could have used JSON deflate, but I'm just using the JSON get element put trick, right? So now I'm just flattening that out. So it's the same data. It's just unformatted. Oh, and then we can do the same thing here, right? We've got these things. We're like, no, I want to make 1 array, right? I just want to make 1 array. There they are. And then, and I'm just calling out that I didn't need to put match all there. I could have left that quote, right? It would work exactly the same. Here, let's prove that. Yeah. And then, okay. And then now that I've got these, right, I can sum the numbers, and it's going to be, notice some of my numbers are text strings and some of my numbers are real numbers. I put the real numbers in red. on my quoted numbers, right? So similar here, we can do this. We saw an example kind of like this a few minutes ago. The one thing that here, let's do it first. The one thing that's different is count. Count has a lot more power because you can do count all kinds of things, right? So in this case, I said count the number, right? But if I wanted to, I think I can't remember if this is a comma or if this is a Velcro. I could look at the. Let's see. Yeah, did you see that? I said count the numbers and the strings, and it went up to 16. Whereas without, if I'm only counting the numbers, then it's counting 5, right? It just sees these that are red. So this actually might be a good time to jump back into Steve's file here. So what I'll do is when you're lost, click the house, click the home button, right? Here I am, and I come over here and say, okay, well, that looks like aggregation, all right? Come over here, oh, look, count. Let's read about count, right? And then I can sort of cruise through these examples here, or I can say, no, I'm too busy. Come back here, count specific data type. Okay, example 6, all right? So let's see. Yeah, that's what I did. I did 2 with a comma separator. That's what I did. But so yeah, so there's just a huge, and then he often it's a very helpful note he gives you here, by the way, so worth checking out. What's interesting for me is I'll go months at a time or thinking I don't need this, and then I'll come back here and I'll go, oh man, I never realized, oh, I could have done it so much easier. So let's see. Oh, okay. This is kind of interesting. Okay, so I have this. This is a really simple example, so because it makes it easy to fact check it, to reality check it. Okay, so I've got these things where under details I have active, and it's either true or false. All right, and so let's say I want to bring back just the true ones, but I'm returning everything. Well, it just so happens that for these, there's basically 2 records here, right? It just so happens that in both these records, I've got a true entry. So when I say bring everything back, at first it looks like it did something wrong because it just basically brought back both those records. But the reason is because there was at least one match, right? So this record had a match on true, and this record has a match on true. And that's why it came back. So that's arguably useful. But what if instead let's just see what it does. So now I've said, yeah, bring me back the parents, but only bring back the child entries that actually match, right? So now it's not the same as the input, right? Brought me back both the parents because both the parents had at least one true entry, right? But it only brought me back the true entries. And so, just to point that out, if I now set that one to false, refresh, well, it's only going to bring back the one that has at least one true entry, right? So, and then finally, what else can we do here? Instead of that, we could bring back that. And the way to think, it took me a while to understand this, but the way to think about this dot slash is it says go find the asterisk, and it's going to be everything to the right of that asterisk in the results. So what does this mean? Just give me the children and forget the parents, right? That's what that's going to do. So now it just brought me back the child data that matched because it said, I know you started by asking about this, but I only care about, what's to the right of that asterisk. Okay. So now I'm asking a similar question, but I used a map as the 6th item. And base path means start from there. It's sort of like doing your search inside the portal or doing your search in the child, and then later you might flip the found set back to the corresponding set of parents. You might or might not, right? In this case, since I've said base path here, it means everything I put in here is going to look down into this details section. It's going to ground itself here. So let's just look at the output first, right? So what happened was I said, yeah, return me what's true, but now reformat what you've got and reach up to the parent to give me the code, right? That wasn't down here. So that's what's going on there. We'll have a few more map examples. I don't want to belabor the point. of all the things that are in JSON query, I think maps are probably the hardest to wrap your head around, but think of them like this. It's a set of instructions to delete, to rename, and in some cases to transform in various other ways. So it's really JSON delete element and JSON set element. And you get to, and a lot of times, like I might have said, okay, start with code, but instead of calling it code, call it ID, right? And of course it reordered it alphabetically. But so that's an example of a transformation. Yeah, okay, well, here's a much simpler one, right? So these next few, we're going to look at this this data, and we're going to transform it in various ways using the map. So in this case, notice each entry within the array is within its own object, right? So we just want to simplify that a little. So now it's just an object. It's no longer an array, and all the things are there in one object, 3 sets of key value pairs. Maybe we want to simplify that to a simple array. So before we transform it like that, right? You can kind of see, okay, key. Well, that's obviously referencing that, or that, or that, right? Source output and source dot and output dot means start with everything, assume you're going to return everything. That's what that means. What else do we have? Transform to a, we saw that one already. Okay. Extract the key names. Because if you think about it, right, you wouldn't be able to do this with JSON list keys. You'd have to iterate through with file to get those. Yeah. So then, oh, give me this: the names followed by their price. One of the things I like about these examples is they're so simple that it's fairly easy to start to wrap your head around what's going on there. He has lots of map examples in the demo file also. So let's prove that assertion, right? Whoops, I'm up here. Yeah, output transformation. Okay. All of this stuff's about mapping. So this is basically the map section. All of this, there's tons of information there. Oh, okay. This one at first you're gonna look at and go, why bother, right? So I've got this, and I want more information about these than what I've got right here. So what I did was this template thing is about just saying, here's a standard set of entries, put them into every entry. So if I click refresh, okay, great. Now you've pushed your template into there, right? And I changed one thing. I changed the word address to location. Do you see that? Started out as address, I changed it to location. So that's included. Okay, so the reason I did this, actually, of course, it was on a much larger amount of data than just this, was ChatGPT. So what I did, let's see if I can get that on screen pretty quickly. See if it. So what I did was I said, hey, ChatGPT, can you please take these null entries and give me actual data? And it said, sure. And it gave it back to me. So then I had the data that I didn't have. And of course, I was able to copy and paste this in because it's JSON. Right? Put it back into my system. So that's why I did that. What's going on here? Oh, a lot of times we want to flatten things, just simplify. So this is too busy, I need simpler JSON. And this isn't just aesthetic, right? It may be I'm moving this JSON into some other system and it's expecting, right? It's expecting this format. So then I used a map to do it. So this is the same map, but we're asking a different question. Oh, no, it's not the same because the base path is different. In this case, I'm saying flatten and simplify it, but only show the non-canceled and just give me the children that match my query param, right? So it has to be false on canceled, right? Canceled. Yes, give me canceled equals false. Show me the canceled ones. Okay. So same map, right? But what I'm bringing back is fewer entries. And then let's look at the next one. Oh, you know what? Hang on one second. Yeah. Okay. Um, oh, this was a fun one. Find countries that border Russia. Okay. So we've got this little borders thing here in our JSON, right? And so one of the problems is I can't do a wildcard search on this right here. There's certain rules on where you can do wildcard searches in JSONQuery and where you can't. And once in a while, you'll bump your head up against it. So I couldn't do a wildcard search in here, even though I wanted to, but I thought, there's probably some workaround. So what I did first was, and I will confess, I had to go hat in hand and ask Steve for help on this. I said, I want to make a list rather than an array. So this is what we do, right? We did a little map, we transformed it here. So now it looks at first like it's identical, but that's not an array, right? That's just a return delimited list of these codes that are right here. So it did that for all of us. That was step one, was just getting those borders in there. Oh, cute. Islands don't have borders. Very nice. Okay. So once I had that, right, that was idea number one, make a return delimited list. Well, now we know JSONQuery does have a contains operator, right? So I started out with that, and then I said, give me anything where that little code there, that return delimited list of codes contains RUS. Let's think about it for a sec. And then it brought me all the countries that border it. There was another way I could have done it. It occurred, and it's funny, I thought of this way first, but then I thought sometimes as you're doing this stuff, you'll think, oh, I can think of another way to handle this, right? So I approached it from the other direction, right? And instead I said, give me the entries that border Russia from Russia's entry. Go to Russia's entry and give me a list of the things that border it, right? And then I just wrote a simple while loop to iterate through those, and that worked as well. Yeah, airport data. Okay, this is fun. So I've got this data of, hey, yes, Vince.
Kevin, I'm going to have to leave soon because I have to go pick up my daughter. But I just wanted to say every time I see this stuff from Steve, it just blows me away. Also, you have a great way of presenting it. So thank you. Um, Quick question, Kevin. With the release of 22, have you seen these functions improve in performance as well?
Yeah, rough on average about 100 times faster, not 100% faster, 100 times faster on average.
Wow. Okay. And
Yeah,
then another thing was in the past when working with large JSON objects, there was this chunking technique. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Less
There
likely to have to do that now.
you don't have to do that now, but
I think we're less likely to have to do it, but I haven't experimented.
okay. I came across that it's still helpful to chunk it,
Okay.
but amazing that that we've gotten so much more performance improvements in this.
It's still
But
helpful to chunk it, but you're also seeing massive performance improvement.
yeah.
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 No, I had a routine that took 60 seconds to do something complicated.
Uh-huh.
And the only change I made was to upgrade to FileMaker 22 and apply JSON parse.
Yep.
It went down to a third of a second, and it took 60 seconds before. I'm not. I mean, this wasn't even JSONQuery, but just the fact is because it's using a lot of JSON functions under the hood, it's getting the benefit of that.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Kevin.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to move quick because I'm running out of time, and I'd still like to show you some more examples here. So I have this data, right? It's major airports in the U.S. and actually a number of minor airports also, right? So the first thing that happened, right, was I had too many columns. So I decided to use the map to chop out a couple columns. And if you ever deal with JSON delete element with arrays, you may know as soon as you delete an element, everything that was below that element or to the right of that element shifts. So if you're going to use this technique, you start farther to the right or farther down, and then you get rid of that first. Otherwise, all your addresses will shift. Right? That's why I'm getting rid of column 4 before I get rid of column 2. Okay. Okay, so now this is going to now become the input for our next examples. Okay, notice the difference. It's just busier. And this is a great example of where I like to use array row 0 as a header, right, for table information. So it's kind of like having keys to explain what these things are. And so let's see. So I'm alphabetizing this, but I still want to keep FAA on top. So I'm doing a little bit of trickery to make that happen, which is why we have that header. That's what I'm doing there. And then what's really cool about this is, well, let's look at a few more examples first. So I'm saying, hey, no, I'm just going to say it. It's like a dictionary where you can ask for any item and return any other item. That's what it's like. So I'm coming down here, I'm saying, okay, column 3, or index position 3, there's the state, right? Find it where it equals CA and then return me everything. So it's bringing this back, right? And maybe I want to just get just the airport codes for CA. So same exact query, except I changed the result path to just look at column 0, right? And it just brought me back those codes that match California. Oh, this is fun. Okay, so what if the population of the city where the airport is less than 3,000? Are there any of those? Yeah, there's a few, right? Surprise, somewhere in Alaska, right? Okay, and surprise, I see one in Rhode Island. Okay, so then what about if it's greater than 2 million, right? So in this case, I'm saying just bring back the cities, right? Find where see what I'm doing here? Find where the population, right, is greater than 2 million and return me column 2, right? We brought this back and it brought them back in the order it found them. It's not doing any sorting for us, right? Notice, right, we have duplicates because some of those cities have 2 airports, right? Houston, New York, right? Chicago. Oh, New York's got 3. Wow. Okay. So here I just wanted to take that and distinctify it, right? So since we don't have a way to do distinct arrays in JSONQuery, that's fine. Give me a distinct list and then I'll make the array. I use JSONMake array and sort it first so it comes out alphabetical. Oh yeah, okay. So I wanted to do code and city, right? So just transform this. Let me make a JSON object with the codes and the cities. Use the map for that. And I'm gonna, since we're running short on time, I'm gonna skip a couple examples here. Oh yeah, pull this out so we see the airport data like that, right? So make it an array, or an object with a key, and then show the other values in an array. And then pointing out the same exact code, but since I'm in FileMaker 21 or later, right? I can just do it with pluses, right? I don't have to specify. One of the things that's cool about using the plus is if you change your mind, you can move things around really easily, right? Like if I changed my mind and wanted to move this to a different position, right? I'd have to change that number, right? But with the plus, I can just move it and it's good to go. We got major data, 2D array. Example 12. Rather than building each oh, okay. So let's see, what am I doing here? Oh, I see. I produced, in this case, I produced this structure by building it up in the map. In this case, I'm producing the same structure or something similar. It doesn't look exactly the same, something's different about it. But effectively, I'm saying, no, start with everything and then just delete some of these things. And so when you delete a key from an array, right? Let's see, wait a sec. No, I'm not going to get into that. Okay, so but yeah, so sometimes you want to build things up. Other times you use the map to start with everything and subtract things. We've got some data API examples, but they're well documented in Steve's file, so I'm going to skip those. Okay. Except I think I will talk about destringifying. Has anyone run into the issue where you had a field that was like an as.json field, like what I showed before in my simple sync, and then you return that with the data API and it comes back stringified. But it's an object, right? But it's stringified, right? So that's not really an object, right? I can't really treat that as, I can't query it. I can't really do anything with it until I destringify it. And FileMaker doesn't give us a destringify command, right? I don't know if anyone's run into this, but if you haven't, you will. So one of the things we can do, and I'm not even saying this is necessarily the best way, but here's one way we could approach this, right? Is first off, remember the old thing about the JSON query sweet spot, right? That's not right now an array of objects. So the first thing I'm going to do is make it be an array of objects. So, right. So I'm literally I'm not even use JSON query here, right? I'm just saying, give me just this. But now what I've got here is an array of objects to work on. Okay. So, so that's now I've formatted the data in a way that JSON query will be happy with it. So if we go to the next example, now I'm gonna grab just those as JSONs out of there. But unfortunately, it doesn't destringify them. Okay. So, however, right, instead of grabbing them out as an array of stringified objects, I'm going to bring them out as a list of stringified objects. Okay. So this looks kind of like, and notice what it did. It destringified it, but it's a list, right? So here I had what I wanted, which was an array of, well, it was an array of what I was hoping would be objects that weren't. When I listed, it destringified it, but now it's a list. It's not valid JSON. However, we can use JSON make array to walk that list, right? And to turn it back into an array again. So now I've got proper destringified objects, right? So just stacking the tools up there to get the job done. Oh yeah, I do want to talk about this range query, okay? I've got these things, we're going to call them options. And these options, we're just telling you what the currency and the price is. And what I'd like to do is just find options that are between 40 and 60 euros. Okay. And I told it right to just bring me back the name. Okay. So because we asked for the key and we said, when I put the output as dot, I'm saying that's the totality of the output. So the totality of the output is the key, which in the key, of course, is that, right? But only the ones that match the range, right? So dot, 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 right? And then you provide the range as a return delimited list with 2 entries in it. So I could have used list. I could have put 40 pill gross 60. And let's see. Okay, so I just formatted this differently, right? Instead of just bringing back the names, I brought it back with some additional information. So ask the same question up here, just use the different math. And then return the, yeah, I like that better. Okay, there they are. And then so just return the results in an array. Now here's where this gets interesting. I can do the same exact thing. The only thing that's different between these two is I put the omit feature on here. So now I'm going to get everything that isn't in that range. Okay, it's either it's either less than 40 or more than 60. So, and the power of this is there are just a huge number of places in JSON query where you can say, here's what I want. And now I'm going to put this omit prefix in front of it, and it'll give me the opposite. Kind of like doing an omit find in FileMaker, right? Gives you the inverse of your query. So very similar there. I realize I'm kept coming up against the time limit. I've got a few more examples. Should I show them all or should I stop?
I don't know. What's the general consensus? I mean, we're not real strict on, we certainly are not afraid to run over. So,
okay, I'll bang through these quickly.
All right.
Getting pretty close here. So, so something will happen sometimes is you'll get JSON from a source, wherever you got, maybe you bought it, maybe you paid somebody to do some web scraping for you. Maybe, who knows? You've got some JSON and it's a little funky, right? It's not perfect. So I created this concept of a report card, and this is actually a pretty simple one. So actually, before I get to the report card, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up and only look at what I care about. So I wrote a custom function called bulk delete key, which just runs through here, and I give it the name of the key I want to take out, and it just runs through there and takes it out for me, right? Again, could have done it with a while loop, but the nice thing is here, so here I've got A, B, and C, right? I've set A, B, and C up as what I want, so I'm chopping away at this JSON. So then I'll return D. And so now it's going to look like this when I'm finished, which is just the same as what we started with here, but with some of the things I don't care about removed. So now I've got simpler JSON, okay? And then, of course, believe it or not, I could instead do the same exact thing with the map, right? Either way, I'm going to have, and if I'm comfortable with the map, I could probably do that faster. No, because I wrote the custom function. So the energy I put in was to write the custom function. So I actually find that a little easier on the eyes. But either way, so now I've got simplified JSON. And on the next two examples, we're on example 2 of 4, we're going to use that as the input, okay? So now we can talk about the concept of the report card. So I get this JSON, right? And I'm going to ask all these questions using JSONQuery about that, right? And basically I'm looking for problems. So I'm saying, here's, I'm going to play 20 questions. I'm going to ask you, and you come back to me, and you take my main keys here, right? And if an empty array is good, that's like no problem, right? Oh, okay, map URL contains spaces there, right? And what is this? This isn't the count. This is the path. This tells me where it is. Map URL contains spaces. 0, 1, 2. Yes, look, there's the culprit. There's a space inside that URL, right? That's what that was reporting, right? So I'm asking, so that's what I'm doing is I'm using JSONQuery to ask for problems, right? And what's nice in this case was once I built this syntax, I could throw it at all the JSON I was getting from this one source and just over and over. And then, so I was able to then, go back to them and say, okay, guys, nice, but these are where we have problems, right? So then this is the cleaned up version. And when I run this, that's what I want to see. No problems. So that's the report card. Oh, disqualifying entries, right? Here we go. So we've got these things, and some of the options are not priced in euros, right? Well, I don't even want to consider it if it's not priced in euros. So I'm going to do an omit equals on euros, right? So now I've got them, and while I was at it, I included the path to it, right? So this is telling me if I was to use JSON get element, or maybe I wanted to update something and change it, right? This would give me the path to it so I could find it. Maybe not important when it's small, but when you've got thousands and thousands of entries in your JSON, you really appreciate the ability to get the path. Okay, just give me the path to the entries that are not Euro. Okay, what am I going to do with that path? All right, let's see. All right, hold on. Now I've done the same thing. It's just I'm returning it as a list instead of an array, right? Since I already had it here, I just used the standard JSON list values to get the to make the list. All right, and then once I had that, why would I do that? Because I'm going to run a custom function we haven't looked at yet. Bulk delete items in path list. So I say go here, and here's my path list. This is what I'm feeding it, right? And go pull those out. So when I run that, it's going to just keep everything except it's going to remove anything that was in the path list. So now I don't have those problematical entries. You'll see that JPY is no longer there. Okay, final 2 examples. All right, so I have a situation where I have a user who's effectively filling in something that might as well be a spreadsheet, and I'm getting back that data as JSON. And the rules are, he has to give me only numbers, and he can't leave any cells empty. Okay, it's much larger than this in real life, but this is what we're talking about. So I mean, this example is intentionally very simple, right? So so what I'm saying here is don't count the head. Well, let's just see if it works. Okay, 1 is good, right? It means he passed all the tests. All right, just out of curiosity. Let me just see what I'm doing here. Well, that's I have no idea why I put that there. I must have had my reason. Okay, so I'm coming down here, and I'm basically just saying, hey, count how many rows there are minus the header row, right? I'm getting rid of that. Don't count the header row, right? So I'm doing that, -1. And then I know there's 4 columns, right? So multiply the rows by 4 and see if that's the same, right, as the sum of A, B, C, and D, which are also the counts, right? And I'm only counting numbers, right? So this is all well and good, right? Except it's hard-coded. So if we change the dimensions of the spreadsheet, I got the same rule, has to fill in every cell. But if we change the dimensions of the spreadsheet, then I'm gonna have to come back and redo this, right? It might be more columns, it might be more rows. It doesn't scale well. But fortunately, we can just do that with while, right? So I'm still using JSONQuery, but now it's going to be dynamic, right? It's going to look at whatever that column value is, and it's going to work its way. The other thing I'll say is I got this trick from Alex Zuyev. Any of you guys are on either community or FileMaker experts, and you've probably seen his posts. Incredibly smart developer. I don't know if he's in Russia or somewhere in Eastern Europe, or one of the former Soviet republics, Tashkent maybe. There we go. And he pointed out that when you're doing this sort of iteration, you can work your way backwards a lot of times. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you really have to work your way from top to bottom. But he pointed out, in this case, I'm working my way down the columns from right to left. But the nice thing about that is then you can just exit when you hit you're going to decrement, right? So that's both the index position of where I'm looking, and I'm just checking, right? So I've got 2 exit conditions there. And when either of these two, so one of the exit conditions is, hey, if I ever don't have a good match on any of my column counts, then I don't need to do the rest of the work. I can just bail out. But what's nice about having done this, right, is now it can handle spreadsheet with any number of columns and any number of rows, and it'll give me a valid report card. So there's one. If I null out a value or change it to A, let's say, right? So now and it says, nope, there's a problem. I am done. Questions? Everyone left the building.
Personally, just feeling a little overwhelmed. I mean, it's just like mind-boggling how powerful this is and what you can do with it. And I'm amazed at all of the examples, and even at the speed you're going through the examples, it's just like a blur. But yeah,
And you're going to have this file, so you'll be able to play with it at your leisure.
yeah. And I was going to sneak off to go do some vacation activities, and I couldn't tear myself away. So
I was hoping you'd say that, Ron.
yeah.
Hey, I'll just show real quick the definition of the custom function. You ready for this? JSON query. Beverly, you've seen it. First, it has a world-class little header up here. Oh, and by the way, I'm sharing a beta. That's fine. I have Steve's permission to do that. And then once you get past this world-class header, which is very much like the reference page in the demo, except there's more data in the reference page of the demo. Then we get down to the actual syntax, okay, of the custom function. Ready? Drum roll, please. Who besides Beverly knows why he did this? But I'll give you a hint. It was not to protect his intellectual property.
So it's not because we couldn't deconstruct it.
It's not about protect.
Oh.
In fact, you will get the full definition. I didn't point it out, but you can actually see the actual definition in plain text, in plain FileMaker syntax in the demo. It's in the demo.
Chris Conger guessed that it's because of 3,000 characters.
30,000. Yes.
30,000. Yeah, he put 3,000,
Yes.
but yeah,
This
the
is called
30,000 character
minification.
limit.
He minified this, and then this is kind of fun. I said to Steve, hey, okay, you managed to squeeze this into 30,000 characters. How big was it before you minified it?
260.
Ah,
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? It's like 7.5 times more. So
Wow.
yeah.
too much.
That's amazing. Yeah, and it's his gift to it's his gift to the FileMaker community. What a gift.
Yeah, that is amazing.
All right.
I have to confess, I'm kind of a write my own kind of person when it comes to pretty much anything. I'd prefer to write it myself so I know how it's done. But
Yep.
there's no way coming up to the different use cases that I have, and okay, I'll write a while function to be able to extract what I need out of this JSON or out of that JSON. But seeing the power of this thing is like really got me wanting to make use of it, because I mean, so much work that I don't have to do trying to figure out how to extract data from JSON in different ways, in different contexts, in different situations. Like this covers everything, every possible.
That's why I say it's a Swiss Army knife with 1,000 blades. I mean, I did not do justice to Steve's demo file, but I encourage you to download it and check it out because it is gothic. It's like a mansion. It's a sprawling mansion. Yeah, but like even just this business of, oh, I can find empty things that are just objects. You know, empty. I can find just empty objects. Yes, we could do that, but it's really cool that he makes it so easy. You know. Or all the empties, regardless of which of these four they are. Yeah. So
Kevin, you know what he does to minify it? How does he do that? Just
he writes his own minifier.
does he? Okay.
I told him he probably has a commercial product on his hands. Yeah. And you know, you guys know, right? In FileMaker, I might as well stop sharing. In FileMaker 22, we got that the insert text function now can handle just, I don't remember what the number is, but it's just ungodly large. It's funny. I blogged about it. I could go read it on my blog. But right, it's like we went from 30,000 to like 100 million or something. You know, in terms of how many characters we can fit.
Wow.
And of course, it was because AI needed it. Wouldn't it be wonderful? So everybody lobby Claris and say we want that 30K limit gone everywhere.
Yeah.
You know. Then Steve could spend the rest of his life adding new features to JSONQuery.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed the presentation. You did it. I think you did justice to all of it. I mean, it was well presented, well demonstrated. So,
And I look
I'm
forward to
already
my
signed up for
presentation
the
in
session
October.
at full
You'll see
access.
something else. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, a lot of you in October.
I'm already signed up for that session, so I'll see you there for sure, Kevin.
yeah, I'll make sure and sign up for it too.
Grab me out in the hallway and let's just talk about this stuff too. I mean, there's few things are nearer and dearer to my heart than JSON, except for SQL and Beverly. All right.
Yeah. Beverly's on all of our minds, in all of our hearts.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go
Thanks, guys.
enjoy the rest of my vacation and go find my wife wherever she wandered off to. Go do some fun activities. But so
All right.
we'll go ahead and close up. But thanks again, Kevin.
Thanks again.
Thanks a bunch, Kevin.
Thanks
care,
for
guys.
Enjoy your vacation.
I will. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll
Bye.
see you next time.